Okay everyone, today's lesson is going to be on how to play your hands in position. I can't stress enough how important it is to start playing your hands in position. Remember, when you're out of position, play your weak hands weak and your strong hands strong. Okay, now let's take a look at a few hands that I played today during the sit and go. I have Queen Jack offsuit on the button. It's folded around to me in early stages. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to make a smallish raise, and the player from the small blind is going to re-raise me. At this point, I'm going to call his raise and assess the flop. On the flop, we have Queen High. Since the player re-raised us pre-flop, I'm anticipating that he'll make some kind of continuation bet, which he does. Once he does that, what we're going to do is we're going to raise him up. The reason why we raise him up is because number one, we want to rep that we have a big hand, and number two, we want to take control of the situation. Since we raise his bet, if he calls us, most likely he's going to check back to us on a turn with hands like pocket nines, pocket jacks, ace queen, small pocket pair. He's going to call our raise because he wants to get a little value on his hand. And he does. On the turn, what does he do? He checks back to us, and what we're going to do is we're going to make a large size bet, a little bit more than a half pot, because we want to represent that we have top pair. And he folds, and we take down a well-needed pot there, guys, with Queen High. That's why it's very important to play in position. The next hand we have Jack 10 offsuit. We're in a high Jack cutoff position. We're going to limp in, and the player from the button folds, which we like that because now we're in position. And what happens? We hit top pair, so kicker. It's checked around to us. And what we do is we make a bet out. The reason why we bet here is because we do have top pair. We want value for a hand. And number two, it's kind of an informational bet to see how the other players are going to react to our bet. Alright, player calls, and now we're heads up with Brandth. On the turn, what happens? He checks out of position. It's a great situation for us because we have top two pair, and what we do again is we bet because we want value on our hand. And number two, again, we're looking for information to see how he's going to react to our bet, and he just calls. At this point, I have to put him on some kind of drawn hand, maybe ace 5, a gut shot, maybe he has ace 3, maybe he has jack 6, jack 5, and that type of hand, maybe pocket 9, he's not willing to let go. Alright, on the river, a 3 comes. What does Brandth does? He's checked to us. At this point, we're just going to check down. We do have showdown value. I don't think that if I bet, I'm going to get a worse hand to call at this point. You know, the only hand that's going to call is the hand that has us beat, so I check, and what happens? He shows down that he was on a draw, and we win a well-needed pot there, and we're happy with it. Alright, another situation that we have, if I can get the replayer to work, is we have ace 5, 5-handed, and we're in the cutoff position again, and we do limp in, and the player from the button folds, and that's great because now we're in position on every street. Flop comes down, jackpot. We have the second nut flush, not the nut flush, but we do have a second nut flush because somebody still can have a straight flush. It's checked down to us, and what we're going to do is we're going to make a small bet here, a smallish bet. The reason why we make a smallish bet here is because number one, we want to represent to our opponents that we're on a draw, and number two, we also want players who have jack 10, players that have a queen or a king spade to come for the ride and put their money in bad, and Brandth calls our bet again. On the turn, what happens? A 2 comes out. What we're going to do here is we're not going to make a big bet because we don't want to scare him out. We're going to make that small bet again. The reason why we make that small bet again is we want to make our opponent believe that we're drawn or we have a weak hand. And what happens? He calls. Now on the river, what happens? The jack comes. And Brandth out of position makes a small bet, which is like a stopper bet. What we're going to do here is we're going to raise him up. The reason why we raise him up is because we're going to get value on our hand. We have the second nut straight, and most likely we want to rep that we maybe hit a straight, and if he does have a smaller flush, that he'll make a move on us. And he does. He raises us up to 1600. At this point, we're in a great situation. The only hand that we lose to is the nut straight, and most likely the odds are he doesn't have it. So what we do is we're going to re-raise him, put him all in. And what happens? Brandth calls us, and what's the showdown? Brandth has queen 10, the nut straight, but you know what? The flush beats the nut straight. That's why, everybody, it's very important to play in position. You have to learn to play most of your hands in position. So today's lesson, position, position, position.